Hi, shalom everyone. I'm going to continue the series of the great Sephardi Rabbanim of yesteryear. And here on the 8th of Av, just the day before Tisha B'Av, it is going to be the Hilula, the Yahrzeit of a great rabbi from Iraq. His name was Rabbi Shimon Agassi Z'tl. He was actually born back in the English calendar year of 1852 and passed away in 1914 on the 8th of Av, just before Tisha B'Av, here in the middle of the summer. Actually, he came from a very religious family. His father was Rabbi Aharon, also, and he was learning at a very, very young age, and he was. It was evident that he was great. He had great potential within regards to the Torah. He was a prodigy when it came to the Torah learning. And usually in Iraq, it happened to be that at the age of 13, the people would usually go out to the workplace and help the family, because at the time there wasn't like the luxuries of this stage and age where people could learn in school and universities till a premium age of 20. At those days, they could learn till about 13 and go on. But he would continue learning his studies after the age of 13 and would learn actually in the Midrash Bet Zilka, a place, a great yeshiva in Iraq, which I've talked about on many occasions before. This yeshiva where Abdallah Somech had learned in, and also, for example, the Ben Ish Chai, Rabbi Yosef Chaim had learned, and many of the great illuminaries, many of the great Rabbanim in Iraq had learned in this phenomenal Torah institution over there. His rabbi, for example, was Rabbi Yitzchak Chacham Mordechai, also over there. It's actually, his family actually were, just as a side note, working in the dyes business with regards to dyeing probably clothes and those kinds of things at the time, and very much supported his studies when it came to the Torah. He was actually learning a lot of Talmud over there, the Midrashim, and a lot of Gemara at that stage in time. Also, he would delve later on in the highest depth of Kabbalah, because later on he would become very, very great teacher when it came to Kabbalah within regards to Talmud and the Midrashim and so many different things. Actually, just as a side note, his acronym of his name was HARASHBA also, which is a phenomenal name, very astounding name that was given to him. He would later on, he would get married to the daughter of a great rabbi, Rabbi Abdullah ben Eliyah Behar over there, Rabbanit Rachel, to give her full title over the year. He was also learning with another great Iraqi rabbi who I've done a video on, Rabbi Huda Fataya, also another fantastic, huge rabbi who would actually become one of the masters of the world in regards to amulets and kumiyot over there, possibly one of the leading inside the entire world. And he did suffer some sorrows. A few of his sons had very sadly passed away just after he got married over there, and that would actually lead him to study in depth one of the books of one of the students of the Arizal. It was his Hilula only a couple of days ago, within regards to Rav Chaim Vital. He actually wrote a Perush on the book, which was actually called the Sha'ah HaGilgulim, and he would later on write 10 different commentaries, 10 different versions of them. The last version of the Sha'ah Gilgulim, of his commentary, would actually be called the Bnei Aharon, I believe after his son that passed away at such a young age, who had so much great potential to be one of the leading rabbis across the world. He wrote many books on the various sermons that he gave over within regards to halachot, which he written, and also within regards to Kabbalah. He wrote many different books and pamphlets and everything else. For example, he did a book which was called the Etz Chaim, which is actually in English translated as the Tree of Life. And he actually published the work of another great rabbi in Baghdad who I've related over before, Rabbi Abdallah Somech. The book naturally being the Zabhi Tzedek, also, which I've mentioned before in a previous video. And in fact, for example, with regards to the great actions he did, with especially a lot of the money he was making and everything else, he converted the house which he had inherited from his father into a big synagogue in Iraq, helping the throngs, many of the people, learn Torah and obviously daven and in Iraq naturally. It's actually he was throughout the years he opened up a big institution called the Tomchei Torah, which actually got the support of the Turkish government in Turkey, and within regards to it helped in funding many of the Torah students there, and also paying their teacher salaries, salaries of the great rabbis over there at the time, and many people that were learning in a public school system over there. I believe there was a school connected with the Alliance Friends of Israel or something like that it was called. They would actually also study over there also. He was, after the Ben Ish Chai passed away in the year 1909, the people in Baghdad actually wanted him to become the head rabbi of Baghdad, of Iraq, but he had refused, but he was still giving a lot of drashot. He was a Rosh Yeshiva at the time, big Darshan, speaking in many places and writing many of his publications, and was non-official leading rabbi in Iraq. And many other things could be said. For example, I believe it was reported over, he spent a few hours a day. He was working also in Iraq on top of all the studying and teaching that we do. He worked in the detergent business over there, and with a lot of his money he actually helped run the yeshivot, also paid students also, within regards to just knowing that all the money he had in Olam Hazeh was going towards specific, directly to Torah and to Chesed all the time. In the year 1914 also he was giving major drashot to all the people in Iraq, and was relating over to everybody. For example, there was a big drought in Iraq. There was no water for a long period of time, and everyone turned to him to daven to Hashem. And shortly after his tefillot and everything else, there was buckets and of water that was raining down in Iraq, and that stopped the drought at that point in time in Iraq, in that stage in time. It's actually interesting, he actually passed away on the eve of the First World War in the year 1914. At the time there was an epidemic that was known as the smallpox, which many people, historians, would have heard about, and he passed away, it was reported, because of that specific illness. In fact, he's passed away, he's left a huge legacy, one of the great rabbis of Iraq. 2 streets in Israel are named after him. One is in the city of Ramla, and another one in Haran, a very religious area in Yerushalayim, Rabbi Shimon Agassi, Rabbi Shimon Agassi, which many people listening would have probably heard of also. He had a galaxy of all-star Iraqi students also, which became great rabbanim. To give an example of a few of them, for example, Rabbi Yitzhak Nisim also became later on a chief rabbi in Israel. There was also Rabbi Yaakov Motzafi, another great Sephardi Rav. Also Rabbi Salman Hagi Abodi, who also became a leading rabbi in Baghdad. Also Rabbi Ephraim Cohen, who became also a head rabbi in Yeshivat Porat Yosef in Jerusalem. Also Rabbi Yoshua Sharabani, who I've given a video on before. His grandson is a huge rabbi in Bet Shemesh, where I'm living in currently. Also Rabbi Yoshua Moshe, and also Rabbi Huda Fataya was someone that he was learning with, who I mentioned before was one of the great rabbis also of Iraq of yesteryear. He wrote many publications. I'll give you an example of a few of the publications he wrote. For example, the Imrei Shimon, also Bnei Aharon, which I mentioned before with regards to a Perush of the book of Rabbi Chaim Vital. Also there was a book called the Drasha, which was based on the 13 principles of faith. The Zahav Shva was also another great book that he wrote. Also the Shem Mishimon, on top of many different pamphlets and publications. And it is Hilula here on the 8th of Av, here in just the day before Tisha B'Av. So all his Chuyot Bezrat Hashem is protecting the whole of Am Yisrael Bezrat Hashem. And please look about him online. There's a lot written actually about him in the English language, a lot of books. I'd recommend people to search his books online and to buy it. There's a lot naturally in Hebrew. So guys, have a meaningful Tisha B'Av Bezrat Hashem. We're going to see the rebuilding of the third Beit Mikdash ASAP now, before the end of Tisha B'Av before Tisha B'Av actually enters Bezrat Hashem. So guys, have a great day and a meaningful Tisha B'Av. And just to add one more footnote, he actually had 10 children at the end. I think they were born between the years 1882 to 1990. Only 5 years before he passed away, his last son was born. Okay, have a great day.